Alright. How's everyone doing? Hope you're all doing well. I am doing well, thanks for asking. So, playing some MLB The Show 25. Let's go ahead and get started. So, for those of you that watch baseball, which record that's considered unbreakable do you think will be broken first? For me personally, I can see either Pete Rose's career hits record or Barry Bonds' career home runs record. Someone's, I know that Albert Pujols was about roughly 50 to 60 home runs away from actually setting the career record. If he had played a couple more years, as a designated hitter, I could easily see him, as an exclusive everyday designated hitter, I could see him breaking the record. Um, Mike Trout, I can no longer see break the record just because he hasn't been healthy. Uh, if he'd actually stayed healthy, I could see him breaking the record. But, for career home runs, because, I know that's Barry Bonds' record right now. So, David Ortiz, had he played for a few more years, I could see breaking the record. But it's so hard to hit a home run. But if anyone could do it, it'd be like players like Mike Trout, uh, players like Albert Pujols and David Ortiz. I know Albert Pujols was, I think, less than 50 or 60 away from the all-time most. He, I think, finished third or fourth all-time for career home runs. So it's, yeah. Hey, Erica Collins, how you doing? I'm doing well. How are you? Thanks for stopping by. That for Major League Baseball's career hits, Ichiro could have if he had actually made his debut a bit earlier. But I know if you combine his Japanese total and his American total, he has more than Pete Rose. But yeah, no problem, America. Glad to hear. Or Ichiro, but I know his Japanese uh, hits don't count. So get a knuckleball up in the zone. Actually, there we go. We got a strikeout. Nolan Ryan's career strikeout record won't be broken anytime soon. Same with Cy Young's career innings pitched. I usually play sports games, so games like MLB The Show, 25, uh, Madden, uh, NHL, MLB 2K, WWE 2K, and NBA 2K as well. And the NCAA football series and NCAA basketball. I also do racing games. So I'll do NASCAR. I'll do F1, MotoGP, Forza Motorsport. Since I'm playing on the Xbox consoles. And if I'm not talking, I usually play a story mode game as well. Like right now, recently I've been playing South of Midnight as well. What about you, Erica? What games do you play? In terms of innings pitched, I'm third actually this season. Yeah, I do like college hoops, NBA 2K, and NC basketball and NC football as well. And Call of Duty as well. That's like the one non-sports game that I play a lot of on my. It's tough. I don't think I have a favorite game because it usually depends on my mood. Uh, but it's usually like I usually enjoy F1, Moto G. It's a toss up between F1, MotoGP, Madden, and MLB The Show, and NBA 2K. What about you? Oh, I also play FIFA and the EA Sports FC games a lot as well. I like the FIFA games and the EA Sports FC. Let the catcher catch that. That's his job. Dang it, we gave up a hit. We're gonna. That's probably. I think that's our first hit of the. Yeah, that's the first hit we've allowed this game. Actually, so we lose the no hitter. But Mike Trout's one of the best at getting hits today, at least. Definitely the one of the best, if not the best, home run hitter. Nice. I like Halo and Minecraft. Those are some fun games. Haven't played Halo in a few years, but when I did play it, I did like it. We played Minecraft the other day. It's still fun. Nice. Who's your favorite football team, Erica? Personally, when it comes to soccer, I like Real Madrid and Ajax. Real Madrid, nice. I like Real Madrid as well. Real Madrid and Ajax are the teams I like the most. I know Kylian Mbappe got sent off with a red card this past game. Actually, it was a terrible challenge. He should not have made that challenge. I No, to be honest, no, I don't think they're gonna win against Arsenal. Um, it's gonna be Wednesday for me, but I don't see them winning against Arsenal. They have some good players on offense, like Vinny and Mbappe, but I think outside of Courtois and Lunin and Carvajal, who's injured, they don't really have any good defenders, in my opinion. So I don't see them winning, let alone winning by four to move on to the Champions League, to the next round of the Champions League. It is going to be a tough game, though. I do agree. It's going to be a home game, though, thankfully, but I just don't see them. Like, if they win, it's going to be like 1-0, 2-1, something like that. Um, but I don't see them advancing to the next round. So, which is a shame because they But to be fair, they've been, at least against Manchester City, if I remember correctly, as their last opponent, they got really lucky that they won in penalties. Uh, in the round of 16. There's that second game where they lost 2-0, you know. Manchester City was the better team in my opinion. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely, if anyone can come back from a 3-0 deficit in the Champions League, it'd be Real Madrid actually. If anyone can, but at the same time they've been very lucky so far. They've definitely been very lucky, so I do know that at the same same they got very lucky because if I remember they got very lucky that they won in penalties. So oh, I think we gave up. No, we didn't give up a home run there. Be pitching against Michael Conforto now. Do you think they'll win against Arsenal? And if so, what do you think the final score will be for that game? Yeah. Roll a knuckleball right there. Surprisingly, that was an out, actually. So we're gonna be relieved now. Relieved in ninth inning. But we won 2-0 though. We haven't walked anyone this year, I think. Oh, so you have a much more positive outlook than I do, Erica, because I don't see Real Madrid winning 3-0, let alone Arsenal advance. I can see Arsenal advancing, but on penalties, if they somehow do advance, but I don't really see Real Madrid winning 3-0. Let's go ahead and actually improve my player now. That's on the velocity for the knuckleball. On the break. A is to confirm. Control of the palm ball, we're actually going to confirm that as well. We can take a look at the packages later. So we're going to be playing against the Colorado Rockies. Have I played against the Rockies in the road to the show? I have twice, at least 2 games. Given up 4 hits, but I've gone 19. Yeah, definitely, Eric. Definitely, we're gonna see what. Let's definitely see what's gonna happen. Have some Kroger purified drinking water now. Flavored water, lemon. 12-1 so far with 136.1 innings. Striking out just over 42% of our um, batters we face. We haven't walked anyone. It's a 0%. I have been streaming since 2018, if I remember correctly. But I've been streaming on Twitch for a daily basis since, well, on and off since 2023, actually. What about you, Eric? Do you stream? Go and throw the palm ball. Alright, we actually hold the first wild card seed. That's good. Or curveball against Ryan McMahon. Uh, I'm just not interested in using a mascot for my channel, if I'm being honest. Or logo. We get a strike there. Use the curveball against Brenton Doyle. And we're gonna give up a hit. So, oh, and he ran over the. And he's gonna steal third. Oh, that's gonna be successful. It's gonna be a successful steal. That was a good steal, though. I'll admit. What do you mean by mascot? Like, do you mean like a channel logo or anything like that? And unfortunately, that's gonna be the first run we have given up this year. Yeah, I have. I'm not interested. I'm just not interested. And that was good base hitting and base running. I could have easily avoided giving up that run. Throw the palm ball. Let's aim it for the lower right corner, which we got the strikeout. Alright. So far, so good. 6-1 right now. I know though my favorite baseball team, the LA Angels, are doing well in real life. Probably a bad idea to leave that right in the middle of the zone, but if any pitch that a hitter will miss, it will probably be a knuckleball due to the unpredictable nature of it. Probably the fastball is probably going to be the worst pitch to leave right in the middle over the plate. Ray McCarthy is up next, so that's going to be the third out of the inning. Which is good. Let's go with the two-seam fastball. That's going to be the second out, actually, of the inning. Ezekiel Tovar. The knuckleball is probably my favorite pitch in all of baseball. There are more knuckleball pitchers, but I know how hard it is to. I know how hard it is to learn how to throw a knuckleball. Actually, yeah, just the way I'm sitting. So, in terms of arm health, and career longevity, it's probably the best pitch because there's the amount of strain, I'm sure, and the way you throw it is probably doesn't hurt your arms as much as it does compared to the other pitches. At least that's what I read on Wikipedia. So I've never played. The only time I've played baseball in real life was a couple classes in PE, physical education, as a kid. So I was never on a team at any level. So again, if you play baseball, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on anything I say about the pitches. Or anything about the game, actually. I was talking about unbreakable records earlier, at least I think I was. I know I can see uh, Pete Rose's record being broken if a good hitter makes their debut early enough, at a young age, and they play long enough, and they stay healthy long enough. And then a good home run hitter I can see easily beating Barry Bonds' unbreakable home runs record. But two unbreakable records I don't see being broken are Cy Young's innings pitched, which, if I remember correctly, is 7,356, and Nolan Ryan's strikeout record, which is 5,714. Major League Baseball actually recognizes Cy Young as the only person to throw more than 7,000 innings of baseball. He's the only person they recognize as the throw more than 6,000 innings as well. So I don't see that anyone, due to the sheer number of, you'd have to make your debut at an early age, and you'd essentially have to stay healthy and pitch, 7, 8, 9 innings, and maybe play 30, 40, 50 games in a single season, which is just not happening in today's game. Today's baseball, it's not going to happen anytime soon. And play an elite level for 20 years or something. Maybe 30 years. So that's just not going to happen. Whereas Nolan Ryan's record, just to get that strikeout record, is going to be difficult. Because in theory, both records are doable, in theory, but in practicality, it's another thing. So Nolan Ryan has 800 career, more than 800 strikeouts than second place. So the sheer number of strikeouts he got each season, and to do it for 27 seasons, you know, it's gonna be tough, like, to stay healthy for anyone, let alone get that amount of strikeouts, you know, for anyone. So I think Max Scherzer and there's another one. Justin Verlander are probably the closest players that are on a roster right now. And they are roughly 2,000, around 2,000, I'd say a little more than 2,000 strikeouts less than Nolan Ryan's record. And I think they each missed at least one season for different, so they have to play for another, 10, 15 years and get a lot of strikeouts and not actually miss a year. Although Nolan Ryan did actually miss. He didn't play 1 year due to injury, but all the other years he actually did play at the major leagues in his career. So I know Zach Greinke is another one pretty high up on the list, but I am not sure if he's on a roster or if he's retired, because I know he was a free agent at the end of after when the last season ended. So I so I don't see those records. Another record I don't see being broken is Ricky Henderson's career stolen base record. That's He's like 500 more, roughly 500 more stolen. He has 500 more stolen bases than Lou Brock, who's in second. So that's gonna be he's gonna hold that record for a long time if that record's gonna be broken. I know Pete Rose's record's gonna be held for a long time because of the fact that he was such a good hitter. Say what you want about him being banned. That's a whole different debate. But and Barry Bonds, I know about his. Say what you want about him and his controversies, but simulate disappearance. Say what you want about that, but he had so many that it's. The thing is, I can see people getting within range of Barry Bonds' record, but I can't really see. Um, I can see people getting within the record, and I can see someone actually breaking the record if they stay healthy and they play long enough, and they hit enough home runs. But other than that, like again, I could see if Pujols was an everyday designated hitter, I could see him. But otherwise, Trout, I can see if I could have if he had stayed healthy. 'Cause I know him, Pujols, and Otani were very talented home run hitters. And Pujols was less than 50 or 60 home runs away from breaking the career record. Albert Pujols, that is. So. Ortiz actually was a couple hundred away, but if he had actually kept on playing, he would definitely, you know, he didn't retire, I could easily see him breaking the record. And Pujols kind of struggled to hit home runs this, you know, last couple of years, but that's a wild pitch on my part and then an error in terms of, throwing it to second, I think. And Mike Trout could have if he had stayed healthy. Now there's a Mariners player. I think it's Julio Rodriguez. If he stays healthy and continues to hit home runs, he can easily. I could see him getting close, if not breaking the record. I think it's either him or Juan Soto. I'm thinking of one of those two. Otani can, but the issue with Otani is there are two factors that I think are working against him. His age, in the sense that he was nearly 30 when he came into when he made his major league debut, due to him playing for like a long time in Japan, in the NPB. So while the NPB is at a high level, it's the stats don't exactly count, and the fact that he pitches as well. He's the only full-time two-way player at the major league level, and he missed all of last year due to injury. Well, he missed pitching all of last year. He actually hit last year. He didn't pitch due to injury, but I don't think he's pitched this year. So if he continues to pitch, that's another factor because there's always that risk of injury. Pitching, and hitting. So, and if the injury is severe enough, that could also factor him even not playing games on offense. Because, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I'm not qualified to make diagnoses on any sort of injuries. But, or the nature of anyone's injury, I'm uneducated in that sense. So this is just my uneducated opinion. But he was just lucky that, it only affected him pitching, that he was still eligible to play, actually. Granted, and he still played at an elite level. So to do that with a type of injury that prevents you from doing half your job, you know, I guess for him it would be half his job. To do that, at the level he did is quite amazing. So I'm actually thoroughly impressed because I am not a talented baseball player whatsoever. I broke this wrist twice, on two separate occasions. And, I was oh man, it hurt both times for me. I cannot, granted, one time when I did break it, I was playing American football. Um, Dang it, we gave up a hit, so let's play American football. So I couldn't play American football, but again, that is more physical than baseball. So, you know, but it hurt. When I injured it, I was, I tried not to cry, but I wouldn't have been surprised if I did cry when I remember the first time I broke it. I remember I tried not to cry. I remember the second time, but both times if I remember correctly, I didn't cry, but I definitely was close to crying. So yeah, I can't imagine playing at the major league level with any sort of injury. So I'm not trying to make light of Otani's injury or anyone's injury, but I am clumsy, actually. I'll be the first one to admit that I'm clumsy. I would not be surprised if I injured myself tripping over air. And I know that's an absurd statement to make that you could injure yourself tripping over air, but if it was possible, I'd be the one to do it. You know. Again, I'm just trying. The only person I'm trying to make fun of is myself. I'm not trying to make fun of Shohei. He is much much tougher than I'll ever be. So, and a much better baseball player than I'll ever be. So, I, you know, for people to continue to do their job injured, whatever job that is, you have my respect. Because you are much more tougher than I'll ever be. Especially, I've seen people play football, American football games injured, like with a broken arm. And I'm like, dude, are you crazy? You could make your injury even worse. You know, I can understand. I played American football for 2 years. I played basketball for like two or three for a handful of seasons as a kid, and I can understand wanting. And I played soccer as a 7, 8 year old. I can understand wanting to help your team win, but at the same time, you know, wouldn't you help your team? Wouldn't it be helpful if you? I know each situation is different, but wouldn't it be more helpful for your team to actually, for you to be healthy and play than for you to be injured and play? Like personally, if I were a coach, I actually wouldn't mind coaching. If I got the proper qualifications to, but um, if I were a coach, I would not let any injured player go back, and I'd make sure that I hear from there if they're, especially if they're like you know playing for school or a club, but like as a kid, I would make sure that their personal doctor would sign off on it, and then the school doctor or club doctor, if they're playing for a club, would actually sign off on that as well before they can come back in, especially if it's a serious injury like a concussion, or if it's a physical sport, and you break a bone. I'd make sure their personal doctor, their parents, and the team doctor, all three sets of people can actually. I know the parents may not be doctors, but I'd make sure I have the school/team doctor and their personal doctor would make sure it's okay before I let them back in. But concussions are now concussions have always been serious, but I think people within the past 15 to 20 years have now really started to understand the seriousness of concussions and the damage they can do. And I think people didn't really quite appreciate that. And they should have, It's easy to say we should have, but no one. I don't think people really looked into it, and thankfully we had there's a famous Nigerian doctor named Dr. Bennett Omalu who looked into it and who looked into concussions in American football, and he, looked into the seriousness of it, and I'm glad he did. I know that if I had known, I know I played around the time he had made, but I didn't quite know the full extent of the seriousness of concussions. So, even though I didn't know of his research until later on. So I'm not a medical expert, but I just, go off what the medical experts say. So I like reading about, those kinds of things, and learning about those kinds of things, but at the same time, when you hear about these football players doing something awful, you have to wonder how much of that was contributed, how much of that was due to their brain damage that that football contributed to. Whether when you hear these, if you hear these athletes, like American football players or if any rugby or Australian rules football players or soccer players that are really good at headers, or these people that work in combat sports, where they get hit in the head a lot. How much of their crimes actually are because of the brain damage they suffer? Because if the brain damage, if you get enough of it, even professional wrestlers where the matches are well thought out and are scripted, you wonder, if you get hit in the head enough times, it will cause damage to you, to your brain. You hear about these football players doing something awful, these athletes doing something awful, or they're struggling with migraines or headaches or any other side effects. How much of that would be to their because of the concussions. I know my parents thankfully did not push me to play American football. They allowed me to, but when I did, but at the same time, they didn't actually go out of their way to encourage me to play it. And looking back, I'm glad that they didn't encourage me or force me to play American football because of the seriousness of concussions. I'm thankful that they did. They didn't. Growing up, rugby and is not that popular here in the U.S. It's gotten more popular, but it's not. It wasn't popular growing up here. Say within the last 10 years, Australian rules football hasn't been popular here. So, soccer again started growing, but I was like a teenager when it started growing. When more people started taking soccer seriously, or at least yeah, here in the U.S. Because I know soccer's like a sport you wouldn't think where people can get concussions, but with the or brain damage. But if you get you can use your head to score. It is allowed in the rules of the game, and if you're good at header, if you get good at heading balls and you do that hundreds, if not thousands of times, that will cause you to damage your brain. I know you can get concussions in baseball and basketball, but those sports aren't as likely. You aren't as likely to get concussions in those sports, I'd say, as at least the frequency of concussions is much lower than, you know, I'd say soccer, and that's even much lower than, American football or rugby or any combat sports. So it's don't get me wrong, I like watching American football and I like watching boxing and MMA and kickboxing, and even though it's predetermined and scripted, I like watching professional wrestling, but at the same time, you can a lot of people think, oh, it's professional wrestling, it's fake, you know that's kind of doing it's kind of insulting to the people that you know perform, and it's kind of insulting to the fans because yes, a lot of us older fans know it's predetermined, but they're still trained to do these things, and they're still trained to do the moves. And my line of thinking is yes, you know not every time you see an injury on TV or in a match, it's legitimate. They could be acting, you know. But they're still doing those moves. It's still risk of an injury. Taking those moves, you still, the wrestlers performing and taking those moves still could be at risk of a life changing injury. There's a wrestler in the '90s named Draws who, uh, he and D'Lo Brown on WWE were actually wrestling, and he took a power bomb, which is just a normal move in professional wrestling. And unfortunately, something went wrong, and Draws was paralyzed for the rest of his life. And it's, you know, Draws never blamed D'Lo Brown, so I'm not gonna blame D'Lo Brown. So Draws never blamed him. It was just a mistake. It was just something. It was an accident, and Draws was paralyzed from the neck down, and he later regained movement in his, I think, arms and legs, but he unfortunately was paralyzed. On just in wrestling, what would have otherwise been a normal routine move, but not to dismiss the move or the severity of the injury, but that kind of life changing, injury. You don't want to wish on anyone, so. Controversial wrestler named Chris Benoit had severe brain damage when he died. He had CTE. He unfortunately uh, committed murder, and you know, I'm under the belief that his brain damage was the contributing factor, but that's from him doing the diving headbutt for like 20 plus years, but it's unfortunate. I got lucky there on that strikeout. We saw the last game we saw Tropicana Field. I've actually been there. I've been to Tropicana Field in Tampa. It's actually in St. Petersburg, Florida, just outside of Tampa. But I have been there, and I've been to Tampa. I like Tampa. I actually like Florida. I like Florida every time I went. I've been to Miami a few years ago. Just a layover. Didn't really see much of it, unfortunately. I like to go to Miami again to see it more. I've been to Orlando. I've been to Clearwater, which is another suburb of Tampa. Been to Tampa, St. Petersburg, as I mentioned. I've been to Lake Buena Vista, Florida. I think that's where Epcot is. I liked Orlando because I saw the old Amway. I always get confused which, those of you that know what it is, which of the Orlando Magic where they played, was it the Amway Arena or Amway Center that was, destroyed, and where they built a new stadium? And one of them, it was the Amway Arena, and the other was the Amway Center. I'm not sure if the names changed, but it's the older one that was like destroyed in like 2010-ish, around 2010, 2009. It was around the time they went to the NBA Finals, like just after that. And that was the stadium they played at, that was destroyed. And I went there, I saw them play. That's when Dwight Howard led the team. And they actually played the Boston Celtics with Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and Rajon Rondo. I think Rajon Rondo's retired. I know the rest are. The rest of the players I mentioned are retired. That Magic team was pretty good actually. They lost in the finals to the Lakers in 2010. Granted, I think any team, I say any team, but I think realistically only Boston could have had the real reasonable chance of beating the Lakers when Kobe and Pau Gasol and Derek Fisher played. Um, but yeah. But at least in the East, in terms of the NBA Finals, well, the West was much more difficult because you had at that time Golden State wasn't very good. Phoenix was actually good. I know they missed the playoffs this year, but then Nash and if I remember, Stoudemire, Amari Stoudemire around that time, and Denver was good, like they are now. Denver and Phoenix went for in between then and now went through a couple bad years before rebuilding, but Denver had Carmelo Anthony as well for a couple of years, and we may have had Allen Iverson around that time, or maybe a couple of years later. Golden State wasn't very good. Portland wasn't very good. So a couple of years before they got Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum as their starting duo. Utah was not. Utah was an average team. Milwaukee was an average team. I know they're in the East, but it's like the old. This was around like when, around the time when the Supersonics just moved to Seattle. No, Minnesota wasn't that good. The Thunder weren't that good either. They just had KD and he was in it. This was really before he took over the league. See, the Clippers were not that good. They were a couple of years away from being good. The Warriors were a couple of years from, about 5 years away from being good as well. They were a couple of years because they had Steph Curry, who was just still relatively in his, maybe in his rookie season actually. Then the Clippers, DeAndre Jordan. I'm not sure if he was on the team, but he was, in the league. Let's see, have the Kings weren't good. So and Dallas was actually phenomenal as well. Dallas was another good team, but you couldn't really see Dallas beating Kobe or because Dallas just had Dirk Nowitzki. He mainly carried that team. San Antonio was great as well. That was a good team. And I think San Antonio was really the only team in the West that had San Antonio and maybe Phoenix could around that time. And in the East, realistically, Boston could have been, LA, the Lakers. Lakers were dominant. Brooklyn wasn't. Like they were New Jersey at that time. Wizards aren't good because they had John Wall, but they just with him and Bradley Beal, they just never really build around those two players or get a deep run into the playoffs. This is a couple years before they got John Wall and Bradley Beal. Let's see. So got some Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar with me as well. Yeah, it's probably my favorite kind of Dr. Pepper now. Excuse me. Dallas. Right now, Dallas made a terrible trade. They traded Luka. I almost said Luka Modric, but he's a Real Madrid soccer player. Luka Doncic. Their names rhyme, but they uh, traded Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis is a talented player. It's just his issues are that he can't stay healthy, which stinks. If he was healthy, I could see the argument, but fortunately, he's not. He just has trouble staying healthy. I'm not sure what the problem is, or what the solution is, but he just keeps getting injured. So, someone more educated, in terms of injuries, and, the NBA can actually educate me on that in the comments section on YouTube or Daily Motion if this is under 2 hours. But yeah. If someone can educate me on that as to what the problem is, why can't KD or not KD? Why can't Anthony Davis stay healthy, and why can't what's the issue? What's the issue, and what the his issues are health wise, and what the solution is? I do not know. Again, I'm not gonna make any claims or anything like that. I'm just when it comes to injuries and medicine and stuff like that, I go off what the medical experts say. Um, so yeah, I have no. Anytime I talk about stuff like that, again, just always talk to medical experts instead of getting information from me. I should never be the when discussing medical topics, I should never be the end all be all for that. I'm not educated enough to actually give out advice on that. My always advice is, when it comes to stuff like vaccines and stuff like that, is if you're not allergic to any of the ingredients of the vaccine, take it. But if you have questions, ask your doctor. Do not ask me. Get multiple doctors to tell you if you need to. It's, I know some people are allergic to some ingredients in one vaccine, but maybe not another. So look, if you have questions, always listen to the medical advice and medical experts. But if you have any questions, it's always best to ask your doctor or nurse. Your doctor, nurse, heck, ask multiple doctors and nurses if you need to, but that's just my thoughts on the thing. So yeah, I know. Anyway, Luca, I know Dallas wasn't very happy, but there must be something going on that I missed. You know, in terms of the Mavericks weren't exactly happy, maybe with with Luka getting into you know shape for the season. Him trying to prevent injuries. What the issue is. But in terms of actually playing and actually doing what he can on the court, for the most part, he's done his job. He led the team to the NBA Finals. So maybe from an outsider looking in, you just try to work with him, and maybe they tried to, but they just got fed up. So just from an outsider's looking in, it just doesn't look smart. Short term wise, yeah, it doesn't look smart, but long term wise, is yet to be seen. So it should be interesting these next few years how the seasons will turn out for both the Lakers and the Mavericks these next few years. So for those of you watching, what do you think of the Mavericks Lakers trade with Anthony Davis and Luka Doncic? And if you're watching this a few years from now, how did the trade turn out? I have no idea when you're watching this. For all I know, you could be watching this in 2037, and you know, I don't know what'll happen in 2037. How you know that's 12 years away, so we'll see. LeBron James is the leading scorer for the NBA, and I've seen actually in all the major sports. I've seen if I didn't watch it on TV, I've seen highlights of it, of at least one major record being broken. Like I watched on TV the game where LeBron actually beat the career record or set the career record for points scored when he surpassed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and I was against Oklahoma City. I watched it on TV and watched the highlights of it on Sports Center, but I saw the day it happened when Barry Bonds set the Major League Baseball's career home run record, and of course I saw Peyton Manning when he set the record for the most career passing yards. Saw highlights of that, but his record would be surpassed by Drew Brees, and then Drew Brees' record would be surpassed by Tom Brady, and Tom Brady currently holds the record for the most career passing yards in NFL history, which I don't see really happening anytime soon, because you have to have a very high work ethic like Tom Brady had, and you have to stay healthy. There are really only 2 seasons Tom Brady did not play. His first year, where he just played like in a handful, I think 1 or 2 games, and he only completed 1 pass. That's because Drew Bledsoe was the starting quarterback. So like Tom Brady, he came in for like a drive or something. I wasn't watching the NFL at the time in 2000. And then 2008, when Tom Brady was the starter, an established starter, he got injured in the first game. He managed to complete some passing yards in that game as well, just like he did in his first year, but he missed the rest of the season. I know in 2016 he got suspended for 4 games missed 4 games, and that's due to the Deflategate. Make of it what you will. And he still contributed a lot of passing yards, but with the NFL, you have to stay healthy. And I'm kind of surprised Cam Newton didn't play longer. I know the reason I bring up Cam Newton is because he's a dual threat quarterback, and he's equally good at running as he is at passing. And you think it's not really injuries that actually ended his career. It's just no team signed him. I don't know why, but I don't think it was injuries. But he I felt like he could contribute. A couple more, definitely some more seasons. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but just the way I'm sitting, so I kind of. I think maybe like he didn't miss I think injuries may have affected him in his final couple of years actually. Now I remember, but still, you know, those weren't exactly career-ending injuries. Maybe like season-ending injuries, but not career-ending injuries. So yeah, to break Tom Brady's passing record, you kind of have to definitely have a high work ethic, and you also have to stay healthy, but you also have to have a bit of luck as well, and not have like severe injuries in too many seasons. And you also have to play as well. Play at a high level for as long as he did. It's like Lamar Jackson is another dual threat quarterback, but I don't see Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton. I definitely didn't see Cam Newton because he, was such a good runner that he could easily run just as well as he throw. And that if anything, Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson, I can easily see them. I could have easily seen Cam Newton. I could have easily seen, and I can easily see Lamar Jackson setting a rushing record if they weren't such good quarterbacks. Which I know Joe Flacco was a good quarterback, but I know he kind of lost the starting job to Lamar Jackson. And I'm kind of shocked that, you know, no team wanted him like to start as a starter afterwards, after he left Baltimore. Because he did lead Baltimore to their second ever Super Bowl, so. But again, work ethic doesn't guarantee you to be successful in the NFL as well. You also have to have talent. And Tom Brady had talent. I know Tim Tebow had a good work ethic, but he's a much better talented quarterback than I'll ever be. But at the same time, compared to the NFL quarterbacks, he wasn't that talented. The NHL records I saw broken were Patrick Marleau. Saw highlights of this on SportsCenter where Patrick Marleau set the record for the most NHL games played, and Alex Ovechkin scoring the most goals played, or scoring the most goals in NHL history. I saw those on SportsCenter. Ah, we're probably gonna be subbed out here. We have two. Oh no, we don't actually have two. How many? We have 6 strikeouts actually. I don't think I've ever gone a triple play in a baseball game. And if I do get a triple play, you'll have to wait for next inning because we got a strikeout there. Are up 4-0 no, though. My team has been helping me out on offense. We're gonna get an out. Or a fly out that time. Yuki Matsui comes in for us. Anyway, I'm gonna make a note of something actually. So we got some. Is our next game gonna be against Milwaukee? My next pitching game, not the actual game. So yeah, we still have a series against. I need to finish. And I think I'm gonna hop off here, y'all. Thanks for watching. Deuces.